So coming to the second part of fourth unit, already first part we completed process synchronization, and the second part is deadlocks. So first of all, we will go with what is deadlock and uh, which situation in a computer system will be called as deadlock. So here we will take some examples, and basing on that one, we are going to define what is deadlock. So, for example, here generally coming to the basic definition of deadlock, a set of blocked processes, each holding a resource and waiting to acquire a resource that is held by another process in the set. Okay. For example, there are some set of processes. The set means more than one. It may be two processes or three processes, or more than two is called as a set. So, for example, there are some set of processes are executing in the system, and each of the processes holding some resource. That means we have so many computer resources like memory, CPU, input devices, output devices. All these are considered as the resources of a computer. So each of the process which is executing in the system is holding any one of these resources. Okay, and these processes are holding some resources and waiting for other resources. So these processes are waiting for the resources which are already held by some other processes in the same set. For example, here he's defining deadlock by taking an example of there is a computer system which is having two hard disks, and there are two processes P1 and P2, and this P1 and P2 are holding each one of the two hard disks of the system. Okay, so P1 is holding one hard disk and P2 is holding another hard disk. So here these P1 and P2 both are waiting for the second hard disk. Okay, already holding one hard disk, and they want another second hard disk also, but the second hard disk is already being captured by the other process. So P1 is waiting for the hard disk which is holded by P2, and P2 is the hard disk which is already being held by the P1. Okay, so such situation is called as a deadlock. Okay, so here coming to the definition of deadlock, here a set of blocked processes. Okay, so here the processes are in the blocked state. As we know, we have so many states of a process. So already in the second unit, we have gone through the states of a process, which is called as a process state diagram. So we have so many different states like new, ready, running, blocked, and finally terminated state. Okay. So here the process is in the blocked state. Okay. So the process is blocked due to it requires some resource which is not immediately available. Okay. So that's why that is moved to the blocked state. Okay. So the deadlock is defined as a set of blocked process, each holding a resource. So every process will have a resource, and it is waiting to get one more resource, but this resource is already being used by, or which is already being allocated to some other process in the same set. Okay, so such type of situation is called as deadlock. And if the system is in the deadlock state, it can neither execute any process, and it cannot do anything. So the system will become idle completely because all the processes are in the deadlocked state. It cannot further execute. So such situation is called as a deadlock. Okay, and one more example here he has given to define deadlock is a semaphore example, which we discussed in the first part of the fourth unit. First coming to there are two semaphores, A and B, and these semaphores are initially initialized to the value of 1. Okay, so there are two processes P0 and P1 which are using these two semaphores A and B for the purpose of synchronization, and these two are process P0 and P1 are executing simultaneously. So when these are executing simultaneously, so first generally this semaphore is modified by using two operations called wait and signal. As we know, only by using these two operations we can modify the value of the semaphore. So here the process P0 is executing the wait operation on semaphore A, and at the same time the process P1 is executing the wait operation on the semaphore B. So here after executing the wait operation, can anyone tell me what is wait and what is signal? Do you remember? Anyone? What is wait operation and what is signal operation? Do you remember anyone? So once again we'll go back and see what is wait and what is signal operation, because without that we can't do. So you can see here. You can see here. Ma, is the wait and signal operations are visible? What we are doing in the wait operation and what we are doing in the signal operation. Can you see this? Anyone please respond? Ma, anyone please respond? What is wait operation and what is signal operation? I have already presented the slide related to wait and signal operation. Ma, anyone please respond? Any one of you please respond either through chat or by using your microphone. If you are unable to speak in the microphone, please respond through message. Are you able to see the wait and signal operations on the screen?
Greater than or equal to 0.
Yeah, in the wait operation, we are checking whether the semaphore value is less than or equal to 0. If the value is less than or equal to 0, we are not doing anything. Otherwise, we are decrementing the value of the semaphore, because what is the initial value of semaphore, Andi? What is the initial value of semaphore? Just now we discussed. Semaphore is initialized to 1 Andi. Semaphore is initialized to 1. So the value of 1 will be, sorry, S will be 1 Andi. Okay. So first we are checking whether the value of semaphore is less than or equal to 0. If it is not less than or equal to 0, we are decrementing the value of the semaphore by 1 and S minus minus. You can see here on the screen. So if you see the wait operation here, in the wait operation, first we are checking the value of the semaphore, whether it is equal to or less than, sorry, whether it is equal or less than 0. If it is equal or less than 0, we are not doing anything. You can see here, no means no operation. Okay, we are not doing anything. And if the value of semaphore is not less than 0 or not equal to 0, then we are decrementing the value of the semaphore. That means initially semaphore value is equal to 1. Now it becomes 0 only. Okay. So this is the thing we are performing in the wait operation. We are decrementing the value of the semaphore by checking the value is less than or equal to 0 or not. Okay. Signal operation, we are incrementing the value of the semaphore. So just you can see here signal of S plus plus. So just we are incrementing the value of the semaphore in the signal operation. Please remember, wait means decrement, checking and decrement. Signal means incrementing the value of the semaphore. Please remember this one, because we are going to use this one in the further things. So here in the semaphore A, we are using two semaphores A and B, which are initialized to 1. So first P0 is executing a wait operation on A. So the value of A becomes 0, and P1 is at the same time P1 is executing the wait operation on B. So the value of B becomes 0. Okay. So immediately in the next movement, the process P0 want to execute wait operation on B and D. But P0 cannot do that one because already wait operation is executed by P1 on the semaphore B. Okay. So already the value of semaphore B is equal to 0. So here the wait operation on the same semaphore cannot be executed by P0. So P0 will go to the waiting state. Okay. And at the same time when process P0 is executing wait operation on semaphore B, process P1 want to execute the wait operation on semaphore A. And already the value of semaphore A is become 0. So P1 cannot execute this wait operation. Okay. So this P1 will go to the waiting state until the value of semaphore A becomes greater than 0. And P0 waits, go to the waiting state until the value of semaphore B becomes greater than 0. So here P0 is waiting for P1 and P1 is waiting for P0. Okay. So both are in a circular waiting state, which is called as a deadlock situation. Okay. So these are the examples related to deadlock. And here to describe deadlock here, we are taking an example of just a bridge crossing example here. There are two directions and there is a bridge in between. So here on the bridge at a time traffic can be passed in only one direction, either from left to right or right to left. Okay. So here on the bridge only traffic will be allowed in one direction at a time. It is not possible. The traffic cannot be allowed in both the direction on the bridge at the same time. Okay. So here each section of the bridge, that means we have left side and right side to the bridge. So each section of the bridge we are taking it as a resource, this one and this one. Okay. So here right now there are two cars which want to travel in both the directions on the bridge. Okay. So both come to the both these cars are on the bridge at the same time, but on the bridge we have a restriction that only traffic will be allowed in only one direction. Okay. So here in this condition a deadlock will occur because the car which is on the right side cannot go forward to the left side, and the car which is on the left side cannot go to the right side, and both will collide because on the bridge we only allow traffic in one direction. Okay. So now a deadlock situation is occurred. So we have to resolve this deadlock situation, otherwise the traffic jam will continue in both the directions. So the traffic will accumulate and finally no in any direction the traffic is not allowed. Okay. So here if a deadlock is occurred, we have to resolve it. Okay. So here it can be resolved in only one car backs up. That means either this car should go back or this car should go back. So if any one of these cars goes back, then only the other car can move forward and the traffic will be cleared. Okay. So when this deadlock situation is occurred, several cars will be backed up. That means if 1 minute if the traffic is static, then cars will come because people are traveling and they'll come and accumulate one in both the directions. Okay. So to resolve this deadlock situation, generally what we will do is we'll move one car back so that the car in the other direction can move forward, and the traffic in the direction will be clear, and after that the car which is backed up will be moved forward and the remaining cars on the direction will be moved forward, so the traffic will be cleared. Okay. But here the problem we are going to get, if one car is backed up, that means I'm moving this car to go back end. Okay. Then whatever traffic that is in the other direction will forward. Okay. So will continue, but this car will get chance only the traffic in the other direction is completely cleared. So this car will not go forward until all the traffic in the other direction is cleared. Okay. So this problem we are calling it as starvation. That means generally starvation we already discussed in scheduling algorithms. In priority scheduling algorithm, So a low priority process will not get a chance to execute because every time a higher priority process is coming and it is acquiring the CPU, it is preempting the low priority process and the high priority process will not get a chance to execute. So the same problem here we are getting during the deadlock. In this bridge crossing example, if we allow one car to go back, the cars in the other direction all has to complete. If then only the car which is moved back will get a chance to execute. Okay, so if the traffic is not cleared in the other direction, this car which is moved back to clear the traffic will not get a chance. Okay, so that problem we call it as starvation problem. So here whatever solution um, we are going to provide for this deadlock situation, we have to make sure that the problem of starvation is not appearing here. So we have to ensure that whatever solution you are providing to the deadlock, that solution has should eliminate this starvation problem and provide the solution for the deadlock. Okay, and here we have so many operating systems like Windows and Linux, Unix, so many other operating systems are there. But most of the operating system, they don't provide any mechanism for dealing these deadlock. And sometimes some of the operating system will not provide any prevention mechanism for this deadlock. Okay, so here most of the operating systems, the programmer, the user, I mean the programmer who is going to design applications for this operating system, they have to do their own programming for preventing and dealing with the deadlock, because the operating system is not providing any mechanisms to prevent or to deal with the deadlocks. So whatever Windows operating system we are using and Linux, Unix, so many operating systems we are using, so most of the operating systems they don't provide any mechanism for dealing with the deadlocks. Okay, ma, everything clear about the introduction to deadlock? Please respond. Anyone please respond clear about this introduction of deadlock?
Clear, ma'am.
Okay, ma, thank you. So here before moving to the remaining topics of deadlock, so initially we'll take what a system which is having some set of resources and how a process will utilize the resources of the system. So we'll go through a general discussion. So here in a computer, we have different types of resources like the CPU, the memory, the IO devices. Okay. So here we'll say each of the resource has one resource type. That means CPU is one type of resource and memory is one type of resource. The some input devices are one type of resource and output devices are other type of resources. Okay. So here each of the resources is represented with the name R1, R2 and so on up to Rm. So M type of resources are available. So R1, R2 and so on up to Rm. CPU is referred as R1, resource type 1. Memory is referred as R2, resource type 2. And some IO devices, input devices are referred as Rm type of devices. Okay. And each resource will have, for example, the resource type we are representing it as Ri, and each resource type will have Wi instances. Okay. That means, for example, if you take a multi-processor system, multiple processors will be available. That means more CPUs will be there. More than one CPU will be available. Okay. So here CPU is one type of resource and how many number of CPUs are available, that is called as instance of the resource. Okay. CPU is one type of resource and how many CPUs are available. that is called as instance of the resource type. Okay, so instance is represented with letter W and resource is represented with R. Okay, and so many different types of resources will be available, R1, R2 and so on up to Rm, and each resource type is available uh, W number of instances, Wi of instances. Okay, so more than one CPU, more than one printer. So each printer is represented as one resource type, and how many number of printers are represented as instances. Okay, and here whatever the resources that are available in a computer, generally each of the resource will be used by the process in a sequence. So we will have some set of sequence. So we have a set of there will be a sequence will be there for using a resource. For example, if a process want to use CPU, for example, CPU is a resource type, and a process want to use this resource. So here there will be a procedure will be there. First, the process has to request the resource. That means it should ask for the resource. That means, for example, a process called P0 is there, and the process P0 want to use the resource. First, it has to request about the CPU. Okay, and then the CPU, whatever the resource that is requested by the process, will be allocated to the processor. Okay, so for example, a process is requesting the CPU. Okay, so the processes which want to use the CPU, they will be kept in the ready queue, as we know. That will be kept in the ready queue. Okay, so the process will enter into the ready queue, which means that the process is requesting the CPU. Okay, so once the process enters the ready queue, after some time it will get the chance to use the CPU. Okay, so that means the process is allocated the CPU. That means the second step, use. Okay, and after executing by the CPU, the process will release the resource. That means the process will release the CPU. Okay, so that is called as release. Okay, so here every process will go through these three steps when it want to use a particular resource. It may be CPU, it may be any memory, it may be primary memory, it may be secondary memory, or it may be any auxiliary memory which we have connected like pen drives, CDs, any memory. And we have so many input output devices. The input device like keyboard, monitor, sorry, keyboard, and joystick. So all these considered as the input devices. So whatever may be the resource, any type of resource, if your process want to use that resource, it has to follow the sequence. Like first it has to request. Once the request is fulfilled, it can use the resource, and after using that, the process will release the resource. Okay, so every process must follow these three steps if it want to use any of the resources. Okay, and here we have gone through the definition of deadlock. So here the next important topic related to deadlock is deadlock characterization. Okay, so what are the characteristics of deadlock? Okay, so here the deadlock situation will arise in a system when the below mentioned four conditions are held simultaneously. If these four conditions are met at the same time, then we can say that there is a chance of occurrence of deadlock in the system. Okay, so that means the system will enter into a deadlock situation. Okay, so the four important conditions, this is a sometimes this question will be asked for 3 marks, and sometimes this will be asked for 7 marks also. So if you write these four conditions, probably if you remember the side headings, that will give you, if it is a 7 marks question, half of the marks will be given for these side headings only. If you have written the four: mutual exclusion, hold and wait, no preemission and circular wait. If you have written all these four side headings, it will give you half of your given marks in. Okay, very important question related to deadlocks. So here the four important conditions, if they met simultaneously, if they hold simultaneously, then we can say that there is a chance of occurrence of deadlock in the system. The first one is mutual exclusion, second one is hold and wait, third one is no preemption, and fourth one is circular wait. Okay, so these are the four important conditions. If these four conditions are met at the same time, then we say that there is a chance of occurrence of deadlock. So the first coming to mutual exclusion. So already we have gone through this mutual exclusion previously, but once again we will discuss it related to deadlocks. So here, coming to the mutual exclusion, we can conclude that only one process can at a time use a resource. That means, for example, there is a shared resource in CPU. For example, CPU. If you take the CPU, so many processes will be loaded into the primary memory, but at a time, only one process can use the CPU. No two processes can be executed by the CPU simultaneously. It's not possible. And anyhow, at a time, only one process will be executed in the CPU. Okay. So coming to the mutual exclusion, only one process at a time can use a resource. That means CPU can be used by any one process at a time. It cannot be shared by more than one process. Okay. Some shared resources will be there. That is a different situation we are having. So here mutual exclusion means only one process can use a resource at a time. And second one is hold and wait. So hold and wait. Hold means grabbing something, and wait means after grabbing that one, it has to wait for some time. Okay. So coming to the second condition, hold and wait. A process is holding at least one resource. That means, for example, the process already acquired some input device or output device, whatever. One resource it is holding and is waiting to acquire additional resources held by other processes. And it wants the CPU, for example. But CPU is already being used by some other process. Okay, hold and wait. So here there is a process called P0. P0 is holding any resource, at least one resource, any resource. It may be memory, it may be input device, or it may be output device, any resource. It is holding one resource and is waiting for another resource, additional resource. But that resource is already being used by some other process. Okay. So here this is called as hold and wait. And coming to the third one, no preemption. No preemption means generally when a resource is taken by any of the process, it will release that resource only after completing its execution. So that is the original scenario that will be followed by processes during its execution. Okay. So a resource can be released only voluntarily by the process holding it after that process has completed its execution. That means a process requested one resource, the resource is allocated, and the process need one more resource, but that is not immediately available. Then what the process has to do is, it should not release the resource that is it already requested, that is already allocated. It has to release that resource only when it completes its execution. Okay, that is called as no preemption. And coming to the fourth important condition of deadlock is circular wait. Circular wait. So here there are some set of processes called P0, P1 and so on up to Pn. Okay. These set of processes are in the waiting state. All these are in the waiting state. That means the process P0 is waiting for a resource which is held by P1, and P1 is waiting for a resource that is held by P2, and so on. The process Pn minus 1 is waiting for a resource that is held by Pn, and the process P0 is waiting for the resource which is held by process Pn. Okay. So here there is a mistake, small mistake. Let me correct it. It's Pn. So, and the process Pn is waiting for a resource that is held by the last process is waiting for a resource that is held by process first process, which is P naught. Okay. So if there is such a circular waiting state is there, if all these four, mutual exclusion, hold and wait, no preemption and circular wait, if all the four conditions are met, are satisfied at the same time, then we say that there is a chance of occurrence of deadlock in the system. Okay. So please remember these four side headings. Tomorrow again I will ask you mutual exclusion, hold and wait, no preemption and circular wait. These four are referred important characteristics that should hold simultaneously for the occurrence of deadlock, and also called as deadlock characterization. Okay. So when you are going to provide any solution to the deadlock, we have to ensure that any one of these conditions should not met, so that we can avoid the deadlock. That we will discuss in the next part. So these are the four important characteristics of or conditions that should be met simultaneously for the occurrence of deadlock. My everyone clear these four conditions? Please respond. Ma, everyone understand? అమ్మా అర్థమైందా? Four conditions or any doubt? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Elian,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you ma. Thank you ma. Thank you. So next, the next important topic related to deadlocks is resource allocation graph. So what is this resource allocation graph and why we need this? Because the importance of resource allocation graph is the deadlock situation is generally easily explained with the help of this resource allocation graph. So that's why here we are discussing about this resource allocation graph, and in the further topics we have an algorithm which is used to prevent deadlock, which is called as resource allocation graph algorithm. So that we discuss later, but before he is introducing resource allocation graph, because it is very easy to explain the situation of deadlock with the help of this resource allocation graph. Okay. So I think all of you know what is a graph. As you know here, a graph is called as a set of vertices and a set of edges. So vertices are represented with the letter V and edges are represented with the letter E. Okay. So here in this resource allocation graph, basically there are two types of vertices are there. The first one is processes P. So generally processes are represented with the letter P, and there are set of processes called P1, P2 and so on up to Pn. Okay. So here the vertices are divided into two different types. One is P processes and second one is R resources. Okay. So whatever processes that are executing in the system, set of processes are referred with the letter P, and whatever the resources that are available in the system are represented with the letter R. And we have some set of processes called P1, P2 and so on up to Pn. Okay. So this letter P, that means the set of processes consisting of all the processes in the system. Okay. So there is a computer system, so many processes are executing. So all these set of processes are represented with the letter P, and which are named as P1, P2 and so on up to Pn. And second, so every computer system will have some set of resources which are represented with the letter R. So each of the resources represented with the R1, R2 and so on up to Rm. Okay. So the set of all resource types in the system are accumulated into one set called as R. Okay. And the edges in the graph are divided into again two categories. The first one is request and second one is assignment edge. Okay. So request edge is a directed edge, which is from a process to the resource. From the process to the resource. For example, from process Pi to there is an edge to the resource Rj. That means the process is requesting that particular resource. So that's why, which is a directed edge. The edge from a process to a resource is called as a request edge. And second type of edge is called as a assignment edge, which is also a directed edge, which is from a process to a resource. So from process Rj to, from resource Rj to process Pi. Okay. So there is a resource called Rj, and this resource is allocated to a process called Pi. Okay. So there will be an edge between a resource to process, which is called as a assignment edge, which is also a directed edge. As you know, directed edge. I think all of you know what is directed edge. Directed edge ante entama? What is a directed edge? Directed edge ante entandi? Directed edge ante తెలుసా అండి? Please respond. Anyone please respond? Any one of you please respond. ఎవరొకరు రెస్పాండ్ అవ్వండి. డైరెక్టెడ్ ఎడ్జ్ అంటే తెలుసా? Directed edge. What is directed edge? Directed edge. Anyone please respond? కనీసం చాట్లోనన్నా రెస్పాండ్ అవ్వండి అమ్మా. An edge having connection with other edge in only one direction. Very good, ma. Roll number 67. Very good. So we have a direction. So that is called as a directed edge. So whatever edges you are having in a resource allocation graph, all are directed edges. Just give me 1 minute. So whatever edges you are having in the resource allocation graph, so all these edges are directed edges. Two types of edges are there: request edge and assignment edge. So we will call an edge as requested edge when it is from a process to a resource, and we will call it as an assignment edge when it is from a resource to a process. Okay. So we'll see a diagrammatic representation of this resource allocation graph. So before moving to that one, we'll have some basic notations in the resource allocation graph. So in the resource allocation graph, a process is represented with a circle, and a resource is represented with a square. So here how many number of instances are there? That is also represented with the dots or some, here it is represented with boxes. So you can represent anyway with dots or with some, you can also represent with circles or small halo boxes. Whatever you take, the instance can be represented in any way. But the resource is represented with a square. Okay. And if you see here, an assignment edge and a request edge. Okay. So the process PI is requesting an instance of resource RJ. So there is a directed edge between the process and the resource. Okay. And if a resource is held by a process, then the edge will be from the resource to the process. So one instance of RJ is allocated to process PI. Okay. So this is the basic representations of in a resource allocation graph. We'll see an example here. So here this slide will show you a example for resource allocation graph. So here we have some set of processes called as you know, process is represented with a circle P1, P2, P3. Three resources, three processes are there, P1, P2 and P3. And we have some set of four resources, R1, R2, R3 and R4. And here we have R1 only one instance is available, R2 two instances available. You can see here only one dot is there, which means that one instance is available. Resource R2 two instances are available, so two dots are there. Resource R3 again only one instance. Resource R4 again three instances are there. Okay. So here already some request and assignment edges are there in this resource allocation graph. You can see here the process P1 is requesting R1. So there is an edge between P1 and R1, and the resource R1 is which is only one instance available, which is already allocated to P2. So there is an edge between resource to process, from resource R1 to process P2. And next here you can see there are two instances of R2 are available, and one instance of R2 is allocated to P1 and one instance of R2 is allocated to P2, and there are two directed edges. And coming to resource R3, the resource R3 one instance which is already allocated to process P3, and P2 is requesting the same R3 resource. So there is a directed edge between P2 and R3 and from R3 to P3. Okay. And resource R4 three instances are available, which is not being allocated to any of the, not being requested and not being allocated to any of the three processes which are available in the resource allocation graph. So this is an example resource allocation graph. So here this is an example resource allocation graph. There is no situation of deadlock here, but we are just creating some more edges so that this resource allocation graph will have a deadlock situation. So coming to the next slide here. So resource allocation graph with a deadlock. So if you see here, whatever edges previously are there, the same edges, except that the P3 process P3 is requesting R3. So here in this particular slide, we are going to have a deadlock situation because so previously whatever edges you are having, the same edges I have used, but except the process P3 is requesting R2. So here, which creates a deadlock situation in this particular resource allocation graph. If you see here, how can you say that a deadlock is going to occur in this particular resource allocation graph? So here what we are doing is, generally, how will you identify deadlocks in this by using a resource allocation graph is with the help of cycles. If cycle is formed in a graph, in this particular resource allocation graph, we can say that there is a chance of occurrence of deadlock. So can anyone tell me what is a cycle in a graph? What is a cycle in a graph? What is a cycle in a graph? Anyone please define? Anyone please respond? Anyone please respond? What is a cycle in a graph? Any one of you please respond. What is a cycle in a graph? Anyone please unmute and tell me what is a cycle in a graph? At least type in the chat box. What is cycle in a graph? Anyone please respond. Any one of you please respond. What is a cycle in a graph? If you don't know, at least tell me I don't know. Yeah, somebody answered. 67. Every edge connects with another edge. And one more thing you have to tell is the starting vertex and the ending vertex both are same. Then we say that there is a cycle in the graph. Okay, very good, ma. 67. So here, if you see here, for example, you start at P1, P1 R1, P2 R3, P3 R2 and P1. That is one cycle, you can say. So you start at P1. So from P1 there is an edge to R1. Next from R1 to P2, P2 to R3, R3 to P3 and P3 to R2 and again from R2 to P1. So the starting and ending edge both are P1. Sorry, the starting vertex and ending vertex both are P1. Then we say that there is a cycle in the graph. Okay. So here, so you can see. So one more example he has. There is a cycle, but there is no deadlock here. So if you see the previous one, we have three processes and 4 resources, and already the 2 instances of R2 are allocated. One instance of R1 is already allocated. One instance of R3 is allocated, and we are not at all using R4. And there is a cycle in this particular graph, and then we say that there is a chance of occurrence of deadlock here. Okay, and he is giving one more example. Even though there is a cycle in the graph, there is no deadlock situation. Why this happens, we will see once again. So if you see here, you start at P1, from P1 to R1, R1 to P3, and P3 to R2, and from R2 to P1. So the ending and the starting and ending vertex both are P1. But here, why we can say that there is no chance of occurrence of deadlock, even though there is a cycle, there is no chance of occurrence of deadlock, because if P4 releases, because P4 is not at all connected to these all these resources, all these 3 processes, P1, P2, P3, P4 is isolated here. So P4 only holds the resource R2. It's not using any other resource here. So if P4 completes execution, it will release the resource R2, and which can be allocated to P3. So even though P3 is requesting, it is not immediately allocated, because it is R2, the 2 instances already allocated to P1 and P4. But here, even though there is a cycle, sometimes there is no chance of occurrence of deadlock, because if P4 completes execution, it will release this particular R2 resource, this instance, and this will be allocated to the requested process P3. So even though there is a cycle in the graph, there is no chance of occurrence of deadlock here. Okay. Next, coming to, so some important points related to this resource allocation graph. If graph contains no cycles, no deadlock. So there are no cycles in the graph, we can conclude that there is no chance of occurrence of deadlock. Okay. And if the graph contains a cycle, there are cycles in the graph, but if only one instance per resource type, then deadlock. That means here, if you compare the previous 2 resource allocation graphs here, only if one instance is available, R1 and R3. One instances are available. Even though there are cycles in the graph, if there are multiple instances of the resource type is available, then there may be a chance of occurrence of deadlock. We cannot conclude that, we cannot give a 100% confirmation that there is 100% sure deadlock will occur, because if more than one instance is available, if all the instances are already allocated, if any of the process releases any one instance, then the deadlock will be resolved. So that's why, even though there is a cycle in a graph, if there are multiple instances of the resource are available, then there may be a chance of occurrence of deadlock, but we cannot 100% conclude that there is a deadlock situation. Okay, but only one instance of the resource is available, then we can surely say that there is a chance of occurrence of deadlock. Okay, so these are the basic things we have to remember when we talk about the resource allocation graph during the deadlock. Okay, no cycle, no deadlock. But if cycle are there, again you have to check whether each of the resources have only available one instance or multiple instances. If only one instance is available, then we can say that surely deadlock will occur. If multiple instances are available, there is a chance of occurrence of deadlock. We cannot surely 100% say that there is a deadlock will occur. Just there is a possibility is there. Okay. So these are the basic important things you have to remember regarding the resource allocation graph in the deadlock. So here the next important thing related to deadlocks is how you can handle the deadlock situation. Okay, so we have 3 different alternatives for handling these deadlocks. The first one is ensure that the system will never enter a deadlock state. That means we have to make sure that we have to avoid the deadlock or prevent the deadlock. Okay, So to avoid or to prevent the deadlock, we have discussed about the 4 conditions, right? Mutual exclusion, hold and wait, no preemption, and circular wait. If any one condition does not hold, which will obviously say that we can avoid the deadlock. Okay. So here we have to ensure that the system will never enter into a deadlock state by preventing the deadlock or by avoiding the deadlock. By using any of these 2 methods, we should not allow our system to enter into the deadlock state. So this is the first method we can handle the deadlock. And second one is allow the system to enter a deadlock state and then recover. That means the system will enter into the deadlock state and we will resolve the deadlock problem. By using different methods, we will discuss these different methods in the next topics, which we are going to discuss further. Okay. So we are not avoiding or preventing the deadlock. We are allowing the system to enter into the deadlock, and after the system enters the deadlock, we try to recover the system from the deadlock. Okay. So that is the second method we are going to handle the deadlocks. And third one is ignore the problem and pretend that deadlock never occur in the system. Okay. That means even though deadlock is occurred, the system will ignore that deadlock is occurred and it will behave in such a way that the deadlock situation never occurred in the system. Okay. So the last method, which is used by most of the operating system, and mainly the Unix operating system will use this method. And okay, so it will just ignore the problem. That means it will behave in such a way that deadlock has never been occurred in the system. And this is the method which is used by most of our operating system, including your Unix operating system. Okay, there is no mechanism to handle the deadlocks, and there is no prevention and avoidance mechanism in the operating system. The system will enter the deadlock state, and the operating system will just ignore that one, and it will continue execution in such a way that never deadlock is occurred in the system. So by using these 3 methods, we can handle the deadlocks. Okay. And in the next topics, we will discuss about these 3 methods for handling these deadlocks. First one is avoidance and prevention. Second one is occurrence of deadlock and recovery. And third one is ignoring the problem. So we in the next coming slides, we will discuss about each of these 3 methods for handling the deadlocks. So the first one is ensure that the system will never enter a deadlock state. So under this, we are going to discuss about deadlock prevention and deadlock avoidance. How you can prevent the occurrence of the deadlock, and how you will avoid the deadlock occurrence. So these deadlock prevention and avoidance, tomorrow we will discuss. Any doubts up to this point? Any doubts up to this deadlock introduction? Already I have discussed all these things, but once again we are going through this one. Any doubts up to this point? Any doubts up to this? Please respond.
Oh, madam.
Okay, ma. So tomorrow we will discuss about deadlock prevention and deadlock avoidance. Only 30 members are there in the class. What about remaining, ma? The strength is nearly 60, but only 30 people are there. Is there any problem? Because if you don't have attendance, the same problem, as you know, Minimum 75% attendance is mandatory. You please remember that.
ఎగ్జామ్స్ రాస్తున్నాం మేడం, సప్లై ఎగ్జామ్.
సప్లీ జరుగుతున్నాయా? ఏం ఎగ్జామ్స్ అవుతున్నాయమ్మా?
1-1.
ఓకే, 1-1 సప్లీ జరుగుతుందా? ఓకే ఓకే. అమ్మ ఒకసారి అబ్సెంటీస్ చెప్తాను, చెక్ చేసుకోండి. 57 591%. ఓకే, 91%. ఓకే, నో ఇష్యూస్. 57 59 62 63 57%. ఓకే, 59 62 63 72 73 76 80 81 85 86 87 89 90 92 97 99 A0 A1 A2 A5 A6 LE 3 4 7 10 11 and 12. ఇప్పుడు నేను చదివిన నంబర్లు ఎవరైనా ఉంటే ఒకసారి రెస్పాండ్ అవ్వండి.
LE 9 ప్రజెంట్.
ఎంతమ్మా? LE
509.
ఒక్క నిమిషం. LE ఎంతమ్మా? 1 2 568 ఎంతమ్మా ఒకసారి మళ్ళీ చెప్పు.
509 509 19 MS 50509
LE 12568913 వీళ్ళు మాత్రమే ప్రజెంట్. 91 ప్రజెంట్, ఓకే, నో ఇష్యూస్. 91 ఆల్రెడీ ఇచ్చాను. ఇక్కడ నాకు కనిపించే నంబర్లు అయితే నేను అటెండెన్స్ ఇచ్చానమ్మా, మిగతావైతే నేను ఏం చేయలేను మరి. 56 57 58 60 61 65 66 67 68 69 70 74 77 78 79 82 83 84 91 93 95 96 A4 A8 A9 LE 125689 13 re-entries 7 and 70. $57 okay, $91 okay.
I09 క్లిక్ చేయలేదు మేడం. మ్యామ్ హలో, LE 509 508 5.
All of you tomorrow please refer whatever I have discussed today and come to the class. మీకు ఆల్రెడీ నేను పీపీటీ కూడా షేర్ చేసినట్టున్నాను నోట్స్తో సహా మొత్తం. ఈరోజు ఏదైతే డెడ్ లాక్స్ చెప్పానో అది రేపు ఒకసారి చదువుకొని రండి. నేను క్వశ్చన్స్ అడిగిన తర్వాతే క్లాస్ స్టార్ట్ చేస్తాను, ఇది మాత్రం గుర్తుపెట్టుకోండి. ఎవరు చెప్పకపోయినా నిర్దాక్షిణ్యంగా క్లాస్లోంచి ఐ రిమూవ్ దెమ్ ఫ్రమ్ ద క్లాస్. మళ్ళీ నేను పర్మిషన్ ఇస్తే తప్ప జాయిన్ అవ్వడానికి ఉండదు, అది మాత్రం గుర్తుపెట్టుకోండి.